Welcome to Total Retail Talks, your podcast channel for retail knowledge.
Hello, and welcome to episode 88 of Total Retail Talks. I'm Joe Keenan, executive editor of Total Retail. Today I'm joined by Jennie Pastor, CEO of Kavador, an online marketplace for curated fine jewelry. We're going to be discussing how Kavador is personalizing the shopping experience and how that's helping the brand to develop loyal relationships with its customers. Thanks for joining me today, Jennie.
Thank you for having me.
So let's first start by telling our audience a little bit about Kavador.
Okay, yeah, as you correctly outlined, Kavador is a fine jewelry marketplace that connects consumers with curated fine jewelry sourced from independent retail jewelers and designers. So Kavador essentially serves jewelry buyers' growing appetite for unique and interesting pieces, including vintage jewelry that has history and character, and their kind of growing preference for supporting small businesses. And on the other side, Kavador gives independent brick and mortar jewelers access to broad 24/7 online audiences to showcase their inventory too.
So as a luxury brand, would it be accurate to call Kavador a luxury brand?
Absolutely, yeah.
So then can you talk about the challenges? Luxury has always been a segment that's been had its challenges with e-commerce and selling online. Can you talk about, how you've attacked that? What are the challenges associated with selling fine jewelry online?
Yeah, absolutely. I think first and foremost, not surprisingly, is probably trust. In the age of rampant online fraud, the more expensive the online purchase, the higher the bar for the level of trust that the buyer has to put into that online store. And for fine jewelry, this trust level is actually higher than other expensive commodities. And part of the reason for that is that consumers rely heavily on the ethics of the jewelers to accurately describe and fairly price the pieces. So most consumers don't know when they receive a piece how to assess the quality or the value of the gemstones. Most buyers wouldn't even tell with a piece in their hand if it was a real diamond or cubic zirconia or even crystal. So getting high-end luxury online consumers, particularly jewelry buyers, comfortable that the online brand is legitimate and that the jewelry that you're selling is authentic is absolutely essential. But for new and emerging brands, that's actually quite a difficult task. I'd say after trust then is the whole luxury experience. Most consumers who are going to part with hundreds or thousands of dollars, it's going to be an emotional buying decision for them. If they're in a physical store, they're going to get treated to a personalized, positive experience. They'll have luxury surroundings, attentive salespeople making them feel good about themselves, making them feel good about their buying decision. And that's quite difficult to replicate online. You have to somehow make consumers get that feeling of luxury and that feeling of attention. So e-commerce sites, particularly high-end ones, must try and build an emotional relationship with their buyers from the moment they enter the site. And that can be done through brand messaging, well-executed images, and relevant and engaging content. And you also need to maintain that relationship with your consumers and potential consumers through multiple touch points across multiple channels. And I'd also say the third thing would be around photography and images. Any e-commerce site is essentially selling photos. You really have to make your product come to life over the web page. And for luxury goods, especially fine jewelry, the images need to be spectacular. Now, no static image is truly going to capture the sparkle of a diamond, but a high quality image can entice the consumer to use their imagination to fill in that sparkle. So what is clear is you need images that are crisp, they're from different angles. Particularly in fine jewelry, you want to see it in a real life setting, so it gives that user a feeling for the scale of the piece. So you're really trying to replicate the ways that a consumer would look at a product if they were inside the physical store, and you're trying to do that through your online portal. I think videos are becoming more popular and likely eventually will become the norm for e-commerce sites, again, trying to bring that in-store experience online.
Yeah, I'm going to dig into a little bit more on that second point around that in-store experience, or bringing that in-store experience, that high touch, especially with a luxury brand and jewelry in particular, like at Kavador. Replicating that experience online that a customer would get at a fine jewelry store. So one of the ways to do that is through providing a personalized shopping experience. Can you talk about what you're doing at Kavador to personalize the experiences for your visitors?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a few things that we're working on. The first part is we have a concierge service. So a large amount of jewelry buyers, probably around half of ours, are people buying gifts for others, typically men buying gifts for women. And men buying gifts, their biggest concern is they don't want to mess it up. They want a happy gift recipient when they hand over that carefully chosen package. So with our concierge service, that allows potential buyers to connect with jewelry experts with whom they can discuss the recipient's tastes, things that they might have bought in the past, and our experts can then make recommendations based off of that. And we've found that service, it's been really well received, and it does give our buyers an added level of comfort with the decision that they make, particularly the gift buyers. And what we've also found is that we're now, with existing customers, we have quite a few gift buyers where we're the go-to place to buy jewelry gifts. Another personalization that I like to do as CEO, I make sure that I personally email every single customer and thank them for their business. We want them to feel special and important. So I think that's a really key thing for me to do, to thank them for their business. We then check in with them a few weeks later after they've received the piece. We make sure that they're 100% happy. We try and send them useful information on cleaning and maintenance, because I think for any new brand, it is so important that every customer has an amazing experience. They feel totally loved and they're 100% happy, because the goal is that they go and speak to their like-minded friends and acquaintances and recommend the brand. That's the best type of marketing that you can get. We also keep in touch with them, in the coming months after they purchase things, with suggestions of other items that they might like based off of what they already purchased. And a final piece of personalization that we're soon to be launching is something that we're calling Kavador Crush. And what this is a site of the website that is being created by our customers. So we'll have previous buyers of Kavador will have a small profile about them, their kind of bio, the piece that they bought, why they bought it, what the occasion was, whether they bought it themselves or whether it was a gift, and also their current wish list of favorite pieces on the site. And our goal with that is that we think it will help build that emotional relationship with potential customers. If they can see real, relatable people that have had a happy and great experience through Kavador, we think it will help them ultimately connect with our brand in that feeling of personalization.
By selling, as a luxury brand, selling high ticket items, that customer engagement and that repeat purchase rates. I'm interested in kind of the customer life cycle. How often do you consider one of your better customers? How often are they purchasing? And then I would imagine that's sort of a longer life cycle than most online retailers. And then kind of a second part to that is, what are you doing to continue the conversation if it's, they're buying every 12 months or 18 months or, to keep that customer engaged and keep Kavador top of mind with those customers?
Yeah, I think in relation to your first point, jewelry is a relatively infrequent purchase for most people. Certainly around our gift-giving occasions, we see our repeat customers coming back, whether that's the run up to the holidays or Valentine's Day or Mother's Day. It's typically a good customer, maybe buys 2 or 3 times a year. But in terms of engagement, absolutely, it's about content, interesting content that we engage with our customers both through social media and through email campaigns. I mean, we find that email marketing is by far the most cost-effective marketing. If you can encourage potential customers to sign up to your database, and then you have a consistent path to speak with them. We really focus on that, doing engaging, interesting campaigns. And we're also constantly analyzing the data on those campaigns. What are the messages that are resonating with our consumers? And you can really see how a customer who may have signed up through a Facebook ad, we can track through analytics that they've then opened multiple emails, clicked on multiple pieces, and then eventually they've gone through and purchased a piece. And that's a very satisfying feeling to see that validation that the hard work of data marketing does pay off in the end.
Right, exactly. So you mentioned some of these things that you're doing at Kavador around personalization. What are the business benefits then you target that you hope these tactics are able to accomplish for the brand?
I mean, essentially, it's conversions. We know, through analytics, we can track how, the users that come to our site, where they come from, what they do on their site, how long they spend, what pages they spend time on, what pages they leave from. But ultimately, the goal is obviously sales. So we look at the services that we offer and we can analyze how they're being received by our customers and potential customers and the benefit that then brings us. So it's ultimately about building the trust of the brand, legitimizing that, this is a website that sells authentic pieces. You can be confident in the pricing, you can be confident in the descriptions, and you can be confident that you're going to get a first-class luxury experience when you purchase through open communications and a constant kind of feedback from us, checking that everything is okay. And through analytics, we can really test that. And to be honest, we've had great results so far. We've got we're pleased with an actively engaged and often repeating customer base. And we see from analytics that our existing customers do stay consistently engaged in social media and email, as I mentioned. And more than 10% of our customers are repeat buyers. As I mentioned before, once particularly gift givers have had a positive experience and a well-received gift, they just come to us immediately and say, okay, I have this occasion, how can you guys help me?
Yeah, and I would imagine some of you mentioned a couple times the ability to test, and whether it be the concierge service that you mentioned or the new Kavador Crush, the ability to kind of test that versus your standard traffic that might not be using the concierge service and seeing a lift at conversion. That's what you're trying to accomplish.
Yeah, absolutely. It's all about getting the right demographic on our site. When they're on our site, having them stay on the site and ultimately have them purchase. I mean, it's typically a multiple touch purchase. Most people don't buy jewelry on a whim. They will, have to keep coming back to it, but we can see those interactions. So it's ultimately about converting those users to sales through making them feel comfortable and emotionally connected to the brand, and ultimately putting their trust in when they enter the credit card information that they're going to get what they are expecting to get, and it's going to be a painless process.
Yes. And then my final question, Jennie, is do you have any thoughts or advice for other retailers that are looking to personalize the online shopping experience for their customers?
Yeah, I mean, I think what I would say, and this is probably reflected in my answer so far, is you've got to think of your site as more than just a shopping cart. Every single touch that a consumer or potential consumer has with your site or brand needs to be aimed at creating a luxury, emotionally positive experience. So whether that's through your email, through social media, through if you do in-person pop-up type events, really focused on creating that luxury experience. Consumers should be wowed by your images. They should be really interested and engaged in your brand story and the differentiation of your particular organization. And they should be informed and engaged by your content. As I kind of mentioned about the multiple touch, most luxe buyers are going to have to come to your site multiple times before that make that decision to buy. So you need to give them a reason to keep coming back. There has to be great images and great content on there that bring them back. And I think I also mentioned the most important part that we find is around the data. There is just so much data and analytics that can be gleaned from your website traffic, from your marketing campaigns, from your social media engagement. And you have to have the ability to look at that data, analyze what is resonating, what are the messages that people are responding to, what are the things that really aren't, pages that people are exiting on and emails that people aren't opening, and really use that data to pivot and tweak and constantly redefine how you contact and connect with your consumers. As I mentioned, it really is fascinating to see through analytics, like the life of a new user coming through a particular ad campaign, engaging on the site, and ultimately purchasing. And that's all witnessed through analytics of the data. So that would be my key advice.
Yeah, and it's very sound advice. So I want to take this opportunity to thank Jennie Pastor of Kavador for joining me today and giving us a little information about the business. Please check out our podcast channel page, mytotalretail.com/podcast for show notes. Total Retail Talks is available on iTunes, Google Play, and Stitcher, so make sure to subscribe on our podcast channel page as well. Lastly, please follow us on Twitter at MyTotalRetail or on Facebook at facebook.com/MyTotalRetail. Thanks, and I look forward to you joining us on the next episode of Total Retail Talks.